darling. Mwah, mwah. Ready to get your Edna mode on? Yes, today we're going to do something a little bit different. Instead of ranking MCU costumes, we're going to rate MCU costumes on a 1 to 10. And of course, as always, I invite you to share your own thoughts and ratings down below. What am I looking for? Well, of course, I'm looking for comic book accuracy, but I'm also looking for dramatic effect. Superheroes are supposed to make an entrance and intimidate a cowardly and superstitious lot. Don't worry, I'm going to do a DCEU one as well. And then, of course, style. Now, you might want to go and get a snack because we have 33 characters to go through because Kevin Feige is nothing if not prolific and incredibly successful. All right, and that's a lot of costumes to design. I feel that, it's interesting to do this with the MCU because I think more than any other franchise, all their costumes do come from the same shop, but they look like they come from the same shop, which some of us, we'll go through it. I mean, I think it's important to try and distinguish the costumes from each other instead of making it look like they come off the same assembly line. But they all kind of have the same shoes and belts and, attachments, etc. All right, so anyway, let's go through this. And again, share your own ratings down below, 1 to 10. So we're going to kick things off with Black Widow, who's kicking off Phase 4 at some point. And so I love her costume. I think her costume is really impressive. It's the super spy cat suit, but with the exception of her first appearance, they never overly sexualized the character. Not even really there. Her hairstyle is really the only thing that you're like, that makes no sense. And, Scarlett Johansson was just getting, her footing in the role. She didn't quite have the physicality that she has adopted over the years playing this character. But it looks very utilitarian while still being attractive. I don't love the blue electric piping they put on it for Age of Ultron. But I think that the fact that it's evolved to be Batman level, where she gets stuff like Snow Black Widow, is really cool. I still think, though, her best look to date, we'll see how she looks in the actual movie when it comes out, but still, the Russo brothers, when they had her in The Winter Soldier, that's just phenomenal. That's like James Bond, super spy, very cool. The right balance of knows what she's doing, but also looks super cool. So I would give Black Widow a 9. We can't, who's going to get a 10? Will anyone get a 10? We'll see. But I give her a 9 out of 10. All right. Next up, Hawkeye. We got, the other person who was in Budapest with her. I think the Hawkeye costume's a little uninspired. My favorite, although to be fair, it's tough to do something interesting with it. They've shied away with really doing the purple from the comics. I don't know why. I think, it's his iconic color. When they try to do something interesting with it, like lose one sleeve, or give him some cool armbands, that makes it a little more interesting. You're like, ooh, does that help with firing a bow and arrow? I don't know anything about archery, but it makes me feel like maybe I do for a minute. But I think this costume, it could do more. Maybe that's one of the reasons Hawkeye isn't more popular. We'll see what Kate Bishop gets when she gets her costume. But for him, it's still kind of cool, though. Although that's partially Jeremy Renner, knowing how to strut in his costume. So I'm going to give this one a 6. 6 out of 10. I'm being a little bit generous at the beginning here. But again, 33 to go. Iron Man. He gets a new suit. Tony always has a new look. You got to love that. And although it's hard to totally tell the suits apart, to be honest with you. And I really didn't like the suit that he had in Endgame, and I thought it had too much gold in it. But, I also think it's funny that his suits gets more and more elaborate, right? Like with the cool wings that he has, like in Endgame, that he also gives to Rescue. I'll do Rescue next. So we have 34 characters to go through. But, I think the bleeding edge technology is a little bit like, a little bit too much of a writer's crutch that his suit can become anything. But I still like it. I think it looks very much like Iron Man. I love the sound that they put into it. You can feel, even though it's obviously an entirely visual effect, you feel like the character's actually wearing armor. So, and also, again, it's just such an iconic suit. So I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. Not anything because of what the designers did, but I just think Iron Man's not the most exciting costume. I mean, Tony Stark's the real spark there, right? All right, so next I have to do Rescue. I love the Rescue costume, I must say. I really like it. And I like that it has a different color scheme. She's wearing purple because it's not just, in the comics, Rescue is just like, a female version of Tony Stark's suit, literally, right? It's just Tony Stark with curves. Now Robert Downey Jr. is like, hey, wait a minute, I got some curves. But I just love it. I think the rescue suit looks really sleek. It looks feminine, but yet again, not in a ridiculous way. So I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. And I thought Gwyneth Paltrow looked fantastic in it. I still don't know how her ponytail didn't get caught in her helmet, even with bleeding edge technology, but whatever, I'll allow it. So I really like that a lot. All right, now Hulk. Oh, he's really changed over the years, inside and out, right? I feel that, he only had a pair of torn pants for most of the time, but I really love what they did with him in Endgame. I know some people, a little bit like Fat Thor, who we'll get to in a moment, people are divided over Professor Hulk. I love Professor Hulk. I mean, everybody looks good in glasses. My glasses kind of look like that. I love them. I just think that Professor Hulk having like an actual suit, I think he looks great. So I want to give him my first 10 out of 10. But it's not really a costume still. Although the glasses, as just asked Clark Kent, that's a disguise. All right, I will give him a 10 out of 10. I think Professor Hulk just it truly is the pinnacle of Hulkness from Hulk and Banner. They should be very pleased. I can't wait to see what they do next. And it better involve Professor Hulk. All right, next up, Thor. Oh, Thor, what a journey for this character. What a journey. And by the way, when you really look at the character through the years, you can see how much Chris Hemsworth has, I think, aged into the role. And also, I think, become more comfortable in it. I liked Fat Thor. I know a lot of people didn't like Fat Thor, but he was depressed. I thought it was perfect. I thought it really worked, and it played into Chris Hemsworth's strengths as a performer. I mean, it wasn't the most convincing fat suit in the world, but Chris Hemsworth can't actually gain all that weight, so I thought it worked out wonderful. And when he has the lightning and the bearded braid when he transformed at the end of Endgame, he looked phenomenal. I think the haircut was actually a good idea. Let Bucky have the amazing silky tresses. We'll get to Bucky shortly. But I think the short haircut works very well on Thor. I prefer it on him. But I think, Taika Waititi not only did that, but adding the lightning to his character regularly, he's the god of lightning, I think was a fantastic idea. I think I'm also going to give Thor a 10 out of 10. I mean, he just surges with personality whenever he shows up. I think he didn't start out at a 10, but he's become a 10. Just like his movies, although some of us disagree on that as well. All right, Loki. I actually don't like Loki's costume very much. I don't like that he looks like he has like some gold chain on, like he's going to the club, right? Like he's like a bro. I don't like that. I think that it does not have the menacing quality that he should. I know that they've turned Loki very much into an anti-hero. In the comics, he's a little bit, well, not today because of the popularity of him in the movies, but in the comics, he was like a legit villain for a very long time. There was a creepiness to him. And I think that that's lost a little bit here. They try to do the helmet, but they haven't. I think the helmet just still does not quite work. And I wouldn't go with the little tiny helmet they're doing right now in the comics. I like the grandness of it. I'm a big fan of helmets, as you're going to see in my rankings here. My ratings. But I just think they haven't quite hit the spot with Loki. So, especially considering the potential of the character, I think his costume does nothing to plus the performance, especially when we talk about Hela momentarily. So I'm going to give him actually a 5 out of 10. My lowest ranking yet. Don't worry, there'll be people who are lower. But my lowest to date. Now this isn't on performances. This is on what they're wearing. All right? The shallowest of rankings. Okay. Next up, Valkyrie. Valkyrie, I've come to really like Tessa Thompson in this role. Largely also because of her work on Westworld, which is so good. But we're talking about her costumes. So, of course, she's got 2 looks. One when she's on Scar as a gladiator, and then another when she has her Valkyrie look from Asgard. She hasn't really been back in battle yet, so we don't know what look she'll return to. I mean, the small blue cape and the white armor, the golden white armor, especially when you put her on her Pegasus, she looks pretty amazing. But I liked the face paint that she had on Sakaar. So, between the 2 looks, okay, I think that they could have done more with her like being at the bottom of the barrel, her lowest point. So I will give her gladiator arena look 6 out of 10. I don't want to be too mean to Valkyrie. But as for her actual Valkyrie look, I think it could be a little bit more. I would love, again, like maybe a headpiece here, as the Valkyries wear in the comics. I'm going to go with a 7 out of 10 for the Valkyrie look. I think we could do more with Valkyrie. I think she could look a little bit better. Hela! Oh, man, 10 out of 10. Come on. And this is a great case of, it's not just what someone's wearing, but who's wearing it. Cate Blanchet rocks this look. Look how she mimics the pointedness of the crown with her hands. I mean, that's really brilliant. That's an actor working there to visually play up the rest of the costume and balance it out with the long talon fingernails. I mean, she just looks fantastic. I love the cutout shoulders, the cape that goes into the costume, and also the cape and the headdress can come and go, which is very cool. And then she's got this great goth smoky eye. I mean, she looks amazing. She looked amazing every single time that she was on camera. Not just because it's a cool costume, but in some shots it's not 100% flattering, but, you know, confidence is sexy. And Cate Blanchet is just oozing with confidence in this role. So, yeah, 10 out of 10, for sure. And I hope that this character returns. It would be such a waste if she did not. She's just phenomenal. All right, next up, Captain America. Oh, again, so many looks through the years. And also, of course, he's not only dealing with, you know, an evolving costume in terms of technology, but also the era that he's in. I mean, that's like a 1940s costume, obviously, there at the beginning. Now, to me, there are two things, but again, though, I have to say, part of this, the greatness of this look is Chris Evans. He has that matinee idol look from the 1950s, which I think is just a wonderful fit, obviously, for a character like Captain America. What kind of hair gel does he use? It's always perfectly in place. So that's great. But to me, the Captain America costume is at its best when it incorporates some brown leather. I think that gives it like one of the guys kind of feeling, you know, and like also like not 1950s, you know, man's man kind of feel to it, right? Cap doesn't smoke or drink, but, you know, he has a motorcycle, so he's got that. And I also like when it downplays the stars and stripes. I think you don't want to get, I'm sorry to say, too patriotic on it. I mean, I think it's great that he does represent America. I think the character particularly represents America today, the way he's evolved, but I don't want him to be propaganda, which of course is what he started out as, so that's why the costume looks like that at that point. My favorite is when it's all blue, like the Nomad version of the costume, really, or like the, you know, the Secret Avengers look. You know, when you know, there was a time in the comics that he had a look like that. That's my favorite. I mean, it's pretty consistent through the years. I don't like the helmet, though. I think the helmet looks horrible, which is why he takes it off any chance he can get. I'm going to give this costume, though, it's so iconic. I'm going to give it actually a 9 out of 10. I'm going to give it a little higher than Tony Stark's Iron Man, just because when you see it, I think it means a little bit more, because he's fighting, well, I think Captain America's fighting for his own causes, but it's like America, kind of, and Tony Stark, I don't know, it's interesting. Just the costume, I think, just, it means a little bit more. Maybe, also, I'd be curious, if you're not an American, how do you feel about the costume? As an American, I gotta give it an extra point. All right, next. Bucky, the Winter Soldier. Oh, I missed the Winter Soldier costume. He also had a smoky eye. I loved him covering up his face. I just thought he looked like a fantastic mercenary. Like, you were like, I should run from him, but I want to get to know him instead. That was exactly Cap's problem. Again, this is a character largely based on hair. I don't love the parted in the middle look that he had in Civil War so much, but he has such great action sequences. And then, of course, there was Black Panther, you know, internal healing Bucky. And then, of course, the Vidal Sassoon one in Infinity War. And then I think it's interesting that he's cut his hair for Falcon and Winter Soldier, and he's going with the cheekbones pop collar look, which also looks really good. I think I'm going to give the Winter Soldier a 10 out of 10. That was just fantastic. I really loved it, the distressed look, because, you know, he's an assassin. And he seemed tortured. I mean, talk about wearing your problems on your one sleeve. So 10 out of 10. And then, you know, I think he really hasn't made an impression in other costumes. But I will say for Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I mean, it's not actually a costume, so I can't give it a 10. But he looks very much like a Jack Ryan type character. He just feels like he comes from Washington, D.C. So I'm going to give that a 7 out of 10, because it's not a costume. All right, next up, Falcon. Oh, I love Sam Wilson. And I love Anthony Mackie in the role. But I don't like the costume at all. This, to me, is classic Marvel generic costume. Look at that. He's got baggy pants. I mean, I know he has to have, like, the harness, but, I mean, it's creating a really bad effect in the bunching. I think that the red coloring, I don't know why you'd want to wear that in the field. This is a case where you're like, oh, it comes from the comics. You wore red and white. So they want to mimic. I know, it's hypocritical that I just called out Hawkeye for the same thing, for not doing it. But, I think the gloves don't look particularly good. I just don't love the costume. It's supposed to be, you know, like paramilitary. He's basically air support, so that's cool. But then it seems bulky in that regard to me, instead of having an aerodynamic feel. I don't particularly like this costume. I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to give it a 4 out of 10. I'm sorry. All right, next up, Doctor Strange. When I was doing my notes for this before I filmed, I was surprised at how much his and Wanda's costumes actually are very similar. The glowy effect helps them both immensely. They both are the only ones to put personal accoutrement into their costumes, like little trinkets and stuff like that. Although I'm sure Doctor Strange is like, the Eye of Agamotto is not a trinket, thank you very much. But you know what I'm saying. And they also have like an Eastern European look to their costume. So we'll get to Wanda in a moment, but the similarities are interesting to me. I like the detail on Doctor Strange's costume. Like the details on the cape, including the inner, it has a lining. I mean, that's really great. They didn't have to do that. I also like, of course, the cape is like carpet from Aladdin. I think that was a great idea. The collar is it's not too small, it's not too big, it's just right. I love the multiple belts, right? How long does it take him to get ready in the morning, unless they're already sewn together? I love the straps around his wrists. I love, they've done the best job of hiding the classic MCU boot. I just really like this costume. I love, of course, the Reed Richards gray at the temple. That looks fantastic. And even though he and Tony Stark have the same facial hair, which of course has been remarked by, several times, he does manage to make it his own. I don't look at him and go, oh, it's magical Tony Stark. So I love this costume. I'm also going to have to give this a 10 out of 10. And it's just it's also extremely accurate to the comics. I love it. You'd feel like he just came off the comic book page. All right, Scarlet Witch, Wanda. Her glowingness, both as an actress, Elizabeth Olsen, but also her power set really makes her look. She's constantly enveloped in like this red rage, but it's also beautiful glow. Captain Marvel has the same thing. We'll talk about her later in the video. But, the VFX really helped this costume. I think that as for the costume itself, very uninspired. Maybe because she's still finding herself. I mean, she's still on the bench for Pete's sake in Avengers movies, even though she's clearly one of, if not the most powerful Avengers. So I'm hoping that after WandaVision, she levels up to a better costume. She needs the headdress. Also, this is so not comics accurate. The headdress, I think, is just really cool. It's iconic. It's regal. In the comics, she's Magneto's daughter, so she has that legacy. It plays up Scarlet Witch, a name that she hasn't taken yet in the movies. I just think it's a great look, and I think that her current movie look doesn't do her justice. But the glowiness is super cool, and they do have her in the red, and I think it's nicely tailored. So I'm going to give her a 7 out of 10. I know some Wanda stans are going to be like, what? But I'm not rating the character, I'm rating the costume. So I give it a 7 out of 10. I think Elizabeth Olsen does a tremendous amount with not very much. All right, next, Quicksilver. This is horrible. I mean, he's actually wearing sneakers and a gym outfit. I have shirts that look just like that. And I'm not a superhero. I think that, obviously he had not leveled up to professional superheroing within the film, so this was an outfit that he did put together himself, and I guess it's supposed to look like, yeah, he went to the Nike store and picked up some clothes. Lululemon, yes, they do make clothes for men, so that's what he did. That's what Pietro did. He ran in there real quick. But then why does it have like it looks a little bit more like a costume. Like if they were going to lean into him just wearing athletic gear, they should have made a joke or something funny out of it. Like he should be wearing Eastern European athletic gear, like something from Killing Eve. Like he puts together this crazy outfit. That would have been, I think, more interesting to me. This is like, is it a costume? It's not a costume, but it's trying to be. It's a 3 out of 10 for sure. It's just really bad. Thankfully, he was caught dead in it, unfortunately. Oh, sorry, I had to do it. All right, next, Star-Lord. Now, this is interesting to me because they significantly shortened his jacket from the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie. He got rid of his leather duster, which I kind of liked. It gave him that cowboy look that the character's supposed to have. He's literally shooting from the hip, right? And his weapons and his mask are a big part of what makes him pop as a character. But I can understand that it probably inhibits his movement. It's probably very heavy and bulky, and they wanted to go for a little bit more of a leaner, modern look. I think the costume, I don't even know how that gun would work, quite frankly, so I've never looked at Star-Lord's guns and been like, I want some of those. But I do like the helmet. Although it bothers me that he only has to cover his head and not the rest of his body, I'm like, what about the rest of your body? I mean, I guess he's part, celestial, right? So maybe that's why. But then what does he need the helmet for at all? So I think it's a little inconsistent as well. I think they could have done maybe a little bit more with it, but it is comics accurate, to be fair. comics accurate to the more recent versions of the character. So, and Chris Pratt does look cool in it. I'm going to give it like a 6 out of 10. I think he could be a little bit more interesting. I think maybe Thor wouldn't be able to overshadow him so easily if he looked a little better. All right, next up, Gamora. Now this is interesting to me because they tried to make her a little bit less girly with the her second and third looks. They went with the, it's basically the same look for the second 2 movies. But they went with, this leather coat, like a t-shirt underneath it, more one of the guys, right? She still doesn't look to this day like the deadliest woman in the galaxy, which she's supposed to. But I thought, this is one situation where I think the first look looked a little bit cooler, a little bit more alien. So I think her costume is actually de-evolving, although her sword is pretty awesome. That's an accessory. I'll count it. So, and I mean, I don't know, like the cutout's a little bit, old school, but I don't know. I think it's a little more glam. And I do think the pink tips on her hair were a fantastic idea. They still haven't justified why she needs to be painted green, except for the fact that the characters in the comics, they never did the yellow circles around the eyes. Although I have come to like Gamora more and more. I think that I'm going to give her an 8 out of 10. I do like sometimes when she came in the shot in Endgame, and she had like the cool leather buckles around her wrist. You were like, it's Gamora. So that was kind of cool. And she's kind of angsty. She's unhappy with her dad. She's got major dad issues. So yeah, I'll give it an 8 out of 10. But it's not as good as it could be. All right, next up, Rocket Racoon. Oh, he's adorable. I love the goggles. I think the goggles are a big part of what makes his outfit work. And of course that he's got holsters. That's very cool. I mean, Star-Lord's like, I have holsters too. But they're cuter on Rocket Raccoon's little legs. I think this is a great look. He's clearly a rocket. I mean, he's a raccoon wearing gloves. So that's very cool. And he has, like, with the rocket aspect, he looks like he's ready for speed with the goggles. So I like his costume a lot. I mean, there's not a lot going on here, but he's a raccoon. He doesn't need that much help in terms of catching your attention. So for costume, I'm going to give it an 8. An 8 out of 10. I think it's a good look. All right, Drax. Not a lot of costume here either, but, he and Killmonger can have a raised skin club about how they decorate themselves. I like it. I mean, it's kind of in the comics. This is a more delicate decoration. They've never really discussed why he has it, if it means anything to him. Is it a tattoo? I mean, is it something he adorned himself with, or is it a species that grows that way, like Ahsoka over in Star Wars? But it's interesting. I mean, they do something with the character. Actually, that's true. I think it elevates the character, and I think it helps Dave Bautista's performance, and does make him look alien. So I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. I'm surprised. I never would have thought I'd give that to Drax's costume, but looking at it, that's how I feel. Mantis. Oh, I think Mantis looks great. You know what's interesting? Because the costume itself isn't that fantastic. It's classic out of the Marvel closet, right? But I think that the makeup and the VFX work on her eyes and her forehead and the antenna that light up, and I don't believe they lit up in the comics. I just think that's really cool. I love it. I think it's a great look. You never would think that Mantis would translate so well to live action, but I think she does beautifully. So I really like this costume, but again, she was, living with Star-Lord's dad. She didn't know the Guardians, but yet her costume somehow fits with theirs perfectly. Come on. I would have preferred it to be, maybe a little more ethereal, a little softer like Mantis. So I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10 because I do like the way they did the visual effects on it so much. All right, next, Nebula. Oh my God, she looks amazing. So she actually had a little bit of a change there. For Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, she had a red outfit on. I kind of liked that jacket. I thought it looked good on her. But obviously, the real beauty of Nebula's costume is the puzzle design on her whole body. And that, unfortunately, she gets pulled apart a lot. But it's really fascinating to watch. She sometimes even takes herself apart. She's snapping off pieces. She could actually, if she played this right, she could have a lot of cool accessories. And she could get dressed like a Lego figure, right? She's like, hold on, let me snap on tonight's outfit. But, I think she's not in a happy enough place to do that just yet. But it's an amazing costume. And even though a lot of it is makeup, it still is sold as her being, totally a robot. With enough with the metal pieces. It's just really a cool look. I think Karen Gillan also, this is another case of she really sells it with her performance. I love it. I would give this a 10 out of 10. I mean, I think Nebula is just fascinating to look at, and that's always what a costume is supposed to do. Next up, Ant-Man. Oh, look, I didn't realize that his helmet was changed for Civil War, and it went full silver. I don't like the full silver. I think it makes his head seem disjointed from the rest of his body, although that is a little bit like an ant. I prefer, though, the more fluid look of, the racing red stripes on the helmet that pull it into the rest of the costume. It's not an incredibly exciting costume. I mean, the real special effect when it comes to Ant-Man is, of course, Paul Rudd. We'll talk about Wasp in a moment. I like her costume actually a little bit better. I think this could be cooler. It could have more of an Ant-Man motif. Again, it seems very out of the Marvel closet to me, very generic. So I'm going to give Ant-Man. I do think the breathing mechanism on the end is kind of interesting, and it's a little bug-like. And there is a bug motif in the chest plates of the two characters. So I'll give it a 6 out of 10. But I don't love it. I think they could have done a lot better. Especially since Hank Pym built these costumes, and they should look different than everybody else's. They came from a different warehouse. All right, a lab. All right, so let's talk about Wasp, though. I actually kind of like Wasp's costume. I think that the center, it's not yellow, but they do have the yellow reflected in her visor. And I love the way you can see her eyes and eyelashes in her visor. It's very feminine. I think it's very, very well constructed. She has an amazing helmet. And I think that it's very slimming the way the costume in the middle comes together to create like that T effect, which of course is like supposed to be the Wasp look, but it's also very slimming. And I think her wings seem delicate, but at the same time, like they work. I think this is a very good costume. I love the ponytail, the high ponytail on Evangeline Lilly, although again, I don't know how it stays in the helmet. These women really should be having their hair up in buns, but whatever. But they all rock a cool ponytail. So I would give Wasp, it could be a little bit better. I'd like to see more yellow in it. I would love racing stripes down the side. That would be so cool. So I'm going to give her an 8 out of 10. I'm going to give her an 8 out of 10. She could look better. A lot of these people could look a little bit better, quite frankly. But some of them are really good. All right, now, speaking of looking really good, Ghost looks amazing until you realize that she doesn't really need that suit. I mean, they never explained why she had the cool eye things going on because, she herself is damaged. I think it was supposed to be a containment suit of some kind. It was very cool, but yet not really ever utilized or explained. But it's a cool look. She looks really neat. I like it a lot. I think they also added so much detail work, but it all seems like it's necessary. And I like the way, like, the top, it's like a little mini jacket there, but, it turns when she moves, and it gives her, like, this cool, creepy, like, disjointed look. I really think it, but yet it's still, at the same time, it's still feminine. I think it's a great suit. I think this is wonderful. 9 out of 10. I wish they had done more with it, and I hope we see Ghost again. Hope she can pull herself together to be solid so we can enjoy her amazing look. Black Panther. I don't know how I feel about it going to nanotech, basically what Tony Stark has. I think it's better for it to just appear around his face than him having to do the thing he did in Civil War where he pull off this mask, like a Scooby-Doo character. And, it had more silver detailing when it started out, and they've traded that in for the purple tech glow, which I think is great. It sets Black Panther apart. It gives him a little more energy, literally. I think it's a great look. But I think, obviously, T'Challa's best look is his royal robes. That black and white royal robe that he has in the movie is fantastic. It has the same color motif, as his costume, as a superhero, but it's just, he looks the coolest, in my opinion, in that look. I'm going to give that a 10 out of 10. He looks African heritage. It looks regal. At the same time accessible. He looks cool. He looks modern. He looks like stuff's happening. Love it. 10. As for the Black Panther costume, I like it a lot. It's really good. I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10 as well. I think that, again, it's very, it mimics it reflects the region where the character is from. Again, it seems regal. I think it's really good. I like it. 10 out of 10 for both. Looking good, T'Challa. All right, Okoye. I love Okoye's costume, and in fact, I didn't even realize she had those cool shoulder harnesses shoulder armor until I was looking at it closely here. This is another situation where you could deny Guerrera wears the hell out of this thing. And also rocking the shaved head. She's fantastic. Great performance. When you wear a look like this and you have a shaved head, posture and how you carry yourself is so important. And she comes across also regal, but at the same time like a soldier. She reports to T'Challa. She's sworn an oath to him, to the family, the royal family of Wakanda. And you can just see that in how she holds herself. It's really cool. It's a very cool costume. It looks like she's protected. It looks like she has full movement. but it's also very beautiful. It looks like it has a history, to it, which it does because she's part of that famous guard. So I just really love it. And she's even got the bracelet on, of course, which has those tech beads. I really like it. I think it's both in the past, 1 foot in the past and 1 foot in the future, just like Wakanda is supposed to have. So I give this a 10 out of 10. I think it's great. The Dora Milaje never looked so good. I just think they're really great characters. Shuri, I don't love Shuri's look. I think especially considering how cool Shuri is, and she's got an attitude, right? She's very funny too. I think she would have done a little bit more with this. I like the softness of the hair. I think that's a great look. It's up, but also it has the longer braid. I think it looks very pretty. It's interestingly a softer look. I love the face paint. I think that's a really good choice. But I think as for the costume itself, I think it could have popped a little bit more. I think it could have a little bit more going on. I hope to see this evolve in Black Panther too. She's always working on T'Challa's. She should work on herself as well. I'm going to give this, a 6 out of 10. I mean, she looks beautiful. Letitia Wright looks fantastic in this, but I don't think, she doesn't draw your eye like Shuri deserves to. All right, Killmonger. This is a costume. He looked great in this movie. He looked so good on his own, he didn't need his Black Panther ripoff suit. I love this look. Now, of course, he has talk about 1 foot in one place and 1 in the other. Killmonger has 1 foot in Wakanda, but 1 foot in America, where he's had, unfortunately, a really bad experience, reflected in, unfortunately, society. So I think you can very much see that in his look. I love the idea of camouflage pants to reflect his military training and past, which he, still uses as, part of a strength that he has. But the royal blue shirt. Also talk about posture and how you carry yourself. He carries himself. He's got a chip on his shoulder for sure, but he has he seems like a real leader, and he has a regal quality because he is part of the royal family. Fantastic. I also love the hairstyle on him. I think he looks really cool. I also loved his look in the museum. That was an amazing look as well. Really iconic, the yellow sunglasses. He looks great both times. Even also the bumps again on his chest, bare-chested, with then he put on the gold necklace, which is the Black Panther suit, which deploys, and then the black kind of fur coat. Oh, he looks great. I'm going to go, okay, so for his blue look, I'm going to go 9 out of 10, because I think he'd go a little, he also has the cool mask that he wore when he did the raid, but it's still 9 out of 10. It could be a little bit more. I'm going to give his museum look, actually, though, a 10 out of 10, because I just thought that was really interesting. As soon as you saw him, you were like, this guy's cool. And I liked, with the bumpy chest, that to me was like, I was like, oh, that looks really uncomfortable. It looks like it really hurts. But it was interesting. I'm going to give that, and the whole, rip-off Black Panther look, I'm going to give that like an 8 out of 10. He was kind of like really cool villainy, but it was still, I think it could have been more. All right, next up, Captain Marvel. Boy, she has evolved a lot in a short time. So in the first, she had a 90s look in the first movie. And of course, she's helped immensely by going basically all rainbow, all gold glow with sparkles. Anytime she lights up, it's a delight to see. That was a fantastic, it was in the comics as binary, but she never looked that good. They really did her a favor by giving her that visual aspect to her power set. Her hair flies, and her eyes light up. She's amazing. So that looks really good. Then they flipped it, though, with the blue and the red. They did a flip on the costume for Endgame. She had longer hair at the beginning of the movie. Then she had the short hair. I like the short hair. I think the short hair looks really good. I think it's important to be faithful to the comics. I think it's very reflective of Carol Danvers' personality-wise. And it makes more sense with her helmet that goes up and gives her a mohawk. I think it makes sense that she would have the shorter hair. It's very practical, which is very Carol. I hope that she actually cuts her hair for the Captain Marvel 2 because, of course, it's clearly a wig in a lot of these cases. Although the long hair, I believe, is also, I think, a wig. I'm not sure, but that's pretty impressive if it is. So I think her costume could be a little bit more flattering. I'd like it if it looked a little more alien. Again, it looks too much like it came out of the Marvel closet when she has a different point of origin. So I'm going to give her cost, but the glowiness is so cool. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. It's not perfect, but when she fully powers up and she's flying around and she's breaking stuff up, she's really amazing to look at. All right. The scrolls. I really dislike the scrolls. Like 1 out of 10. I love the Skrulls themselves. I want to be clear on that. I love the Skrulls. I love what Kevin Feige's doing with them. I love that they're now kind of good guys. I think that's all really interesting. But they're aliens who have the exact same clothes on as the Marvel characters do, the Marvel superheroes. That's ridiculous to me. I'm like, where'd you get that jacket? And it's not like they did, it's not a choice. They didn't make these costumes after they saw the Marvel people and were like, I guess that's how we dress down here. This is how they showed up. So I think it's very lazy costuming. Incredible lazy costuming. All right, Spider-Man, Peter Parker. He's had a bunch of looks too already. Because he's Iron Man Jr., which as an Iron Man fan, I don't have a problem with. I like his look a lot. I think that it keeps it interesting. His homemade look was right out of the comics, which was really cool. The first suit, I'm tired of looking at it, so I'm glad we're changing it up a little bit. The Iron Spider suit was a little bit too much like Iron Man, so he doesn't have enough of his own identity. The stealth suit I thought was kind of cool, but I think the new suit that he made for himself. He did a great job dressing himself finally. He made the earlier version, the homemade one. But I think the black and the red is a really great look. I think it looks really cool. I like it. I like that. I think the eyes are the right size. I think he looks really good. I mean, you can't really deviate too much because it's Spider-Man. He has a look, that's how he's supposed to look. So I would give it, it's interesting. Tom Holland doesn't have the wiriness of Andrew Garfield, which looked the most to me like Spider-Man from the comics. So I'm sorry, I'm going to have to give him a 9 out of 10 because he looks great, but he doesn't quite look like Spider-Man to me. He doesn't quite have that wiriness. And there's nothing they can do about that because that's just Tom Holland's build. So I would give him a 9 out of 10. All right, next up, Vulture. I really thought Vulture was cool. I thought that this was great. I liked the flight jacket, the leather, because, Adrian Toomes here, played by Michael Keaton, he's an older guy, so he's got this cool flight jacket. It's very much like a dad's jacket. He's like, I'm going out. I'm going to do cool stuff. I love the collar on it. I love the way the green little beady eyes that the helmet creates. Because he's not a superhero. He's a guy at work who has his really cool wings, and he goes and he's like, gotta go, time to make the donuts, time to make the evil donuts. And I think it's really great. And I love the turbine engines on the wings that look like they might be, they could chew you up if you got in them. I think it's a great costume, and it's a great update of a character. I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10. I think they did a great job updating that. And speaking of updating classic Spider-Man villains, Mysterio, 10 out of 10. Oh, this is a brilliant costume. They not only made the classic Mysterio look make sense, as he's a combination of Iron Man, Thor, and Doctor Strange, but they made the fishbowl make sense. I mean, I didn't think they'd ever be able to do that. But the fact that it's the dome that he uses for his motion capture suit, I mean, he has two looks. He's got his look as Mysterio, the thing that he created, and then, of course, he has his own look, when he's going to work. The utilitarianism of the Spider-Man villains is fantastic. So as for the Mysterio fake look, 10 out of 10. I love sometimes it lights up. I love the green smoke that comes out of it. It's just amazing. I mean, he's a showman, and it shows in the costume. But then as for this real look, also 10 out of 10. Absolutely brilliant. And it's so cool, and it's so meta, considering so many people on set are actually wearing these suits anyway to play these characters. But his is, you actually get to see it. So and also it's got the thumb hole on it. It's got all the cool devices. And he also even has a gun, because, sometimes effects just won't get the job done. So it's just fantastic. He's got an army of drones. It's so current. I just absolutely love it. 10 out of 10 all around on Mysterio. So those are my ratings for the MCU. I'm very curious to hear your thoughts down below. I hope you enjoyed this different type of video. Subscribe today. And of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.